What up, all my fight fans? With UFC, I believe it's 312 in the books. You know, it definitely wasn't the biggest fight card or the best fight card or even the greatest fight card or anything, but at the end of the day, it was still a fight. It was still somewhat interesting, especially in the middleweights. We already know what happened with the fly, or I believe it's the strawweights with Weili Zhang and Tatiana Suarez. So let's break it down a little bit. You know, I know there's not a great deal to get into, but let's get into it a little bit, shall we? In the middleweight championship fight, in the main event, you had DDP, Dricus Du Plessis, taking on Sean Strickland in a rematch. You know, this fight was wasn't nowhere near as competitive as the first. That first fight was so much more better, I gotta say. Honestly, that first fight back in last year in January in Canada, those guys really left it all in the octagon. They actually gave it their all, the performances. A lot of people didn't like it too much. There's some people that actually thought it was good, and I actually thought it was good. You know, it was a good stand-up war, good back and forth. You know, you had some blood and guts. You had, you know, it had a little bit of everything in that fight. So I did not mind seeing it again. But this one, oh my God, I am not sure what happened. I am not sure what was going on, but Sean Strickland just did not look himself. Sean Strickland was never in the fight, and Sean Strickland looked like he never could get into the fight. You know, Sean Strickland just, I don't know what happened to him. I'm sure there's some logical explanation on why he couldn't perform at his very best. You know, he definitely wasn't doing what he normally does. He looked very flat, very just like he was just there for a paycheck almost. I'm not saying that's what he was for there, but I'm just saying that it just didn't look like he wanted to be there, honestly. So with that being said, DDP pretty much put on a clinic, pretty much beat him down and broke his nose. I think it was either in the third or fourth round, and completely just dominated him. There is nowhere near any reason for this fight to ever happen again. In the first fight, a lot of people were like, you know what? I think Sean Strickland could have got that. You know what? I think DDP could have got that. So that's why we had the rematch. While in this fight, it was crystal clear 100%, no doubts whatsoever that DDP pretty much annihilated Sean Strickland. You know, there was literally nothing to break down. It just looked like Sean Strickland had an off night, and DDP just had one of the best nights of his career. You know, it could have been either or, but at the end of the day, DDP just looked flawless, looked great. He looks like he's going to be someone very, very tough to beat, very, very tough to take the belt off in the middleweight. So that's pretty much it. That really is it. There really is nothing left to really say about that fight. So how about we talk about the future? We got the number one contender, Khamzat Chimaev, who pretty much destroyed, I should say, Robert Whittaker in that first round, completely breaking his jaw or something with his teeth. I can't exactly remember. But yeah, he completely dominated Robert Whittaker, and he's now the number one contender. And that's going to be a very, very fun fight. I can't wait to break that down, because you got him being this rising contender. He's been that way for quite a long time. There's a lot of people that had their doubts about him, that maybe his cardio wasn't the greatest. We all know he had COVID issues back in the earlier days, back when COVID was a thing. We don't miss those days, don't we? And then we saw his fights against Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns, where it was like, hey, you know what? If those fights were fifth rounds, maybe he would have lost those fights. Then you saw what he was able to do to Robert Whittaker, and like, good God. And of course, we all know that debacle that happened with him and Nate Diaz, and just a lot of things have not been on his side until he went against Robert Whittaker. Then he was able to be like, hey, this is what I can still do. This is what I'm capable of. So watch what I can do. But again, a lot of people are still a little uneasy about it, because we do not know how he can handle himself in the fourth and fifth round. So we're still waiting for that. And that's what I'm thinking when it comes to this fight. We're going to break it down more once it gets announced and when it actually happens, when DDP and Khamzat Chimaev actually does take place. But with that being said, I believe in earlier predictions, DDP, all he has to do is really, really withstand those earlier onslaughts, those earlier assaults from Khamzat Chimaev from rounds 1 and 2. And if he can handle that, if he can, you know, withstand that pressure, that Terminator-like style that Khamzat Chimaev comes, where he just goes in that first round and just leaves it all on the line in that first round, then I believe DDP is hands down going to win that fight, no problem. Because DDP's style is just so hard to prepare for. DDP's style is just so awkward and so unorthodox that it's really hard to read. I mean, he does got a lot of tape. You know, he does got a lot of tape. Khamzat Chimaev does a lot of tape. You know, he doesn't you know, DDP is not known necessarily for finishing his guys right away, but at the end of the day, he still gets the job done. So there's going to be a lot to be said right there. We already know about the co-main event, or excuse me, before I get into the co-main event, Sean Strickland. You know, Sean Strickland is going to be a while before he gets his middleweight title shot again. You know, this was the second shot. We all know he was able to get that victory over Izzy. Now he got to go in the back of the line for a little bit. You know, like I said, you got Khamzat Chimaev, you got the Imavov, who knocked out Israel Adesanya not that long ago. You know, so you got some contenders on their wings. And again, this was not a very competitive fight with Strickland and DDP, so not a lot of people are going to be wanting to see it. So maybe if Khamzat gets the victory over DDP, maybe we could see a Strickland get a title shot after one win. He needs to get a win outside of a title shot, like he did with Paulo Costa, which was all right, not too bad. We would prefer him to get a little bit of a stoppage or something of that case, but you know, we'll take what we can get. Now we got to see who he's going to go against now. I mean, there's a lot of contenders. There's a lot of contenders that he has yet to face. We got to remember, the only reason why Israel Adesanya went against Sean Strickland back in the earlier days when he got his championship fight was because he was actually supposed to fight DDP, and DDP could not make the fight. Izzy really wanted a fight in September, I believe it was 2023, something like that. I want to say 2023. He really wanted a fight, and that's how he got his fight. You know, it wasn't as if Sean Strickland went through this crazy line of contenders. No, he didn't. There was no other really contenders, nobody else that really made sense. You know, Izzy pretty much cleared out the division. So hey, you know what, why not give it to Sean Strickland? Sean Strickland has a little bit of a name. There was a little bit of some steam in a previous press conference between those two, so why not give it to him? Well, there you have it. That's why Sean Strickland was able to get a title shot. Moving forward, you know, he does need to get some rematches in, maybe a rematch with Jared Cannonier. You know, I know Jared Cannonier gets a fight coming up, but maybe a rematch with Jared Cannonier, you know, because he did lose against Jared Cannonier back in the earlier days as well. So, you know, maybe a Marvin Vettori, who knows, maybe even a Bo Nickel. Somebody in there to get his confidence back and to get himself maybe reinvented. You know, he's still young and he still got some time, and I'm sure 1 or 2 fights away he could get a title shot once again, especially if DDP goes on and maybe fights Alex Pereira at light heavyweight. You never know. Well, there's that for the middleweights. Weili Zhang and Tatiana Suarez. We all know Tatiana Suarez was supposed to be this new boogie woman of the division, great wrestler and such, but Weili Zhang pretty much just dominated her. Again, this was another dominated performance by another champion, and there really is nothing to really break down other than the fact that, you know, she really showed everybody like, hey, I am probably the best female fighter right now in the UFC. And what's going to be next for her? She's already talking about going up to the another division. I believe it's flyweight, taking on Valentina Shevchenko. That would be a very interesting fight. Well, there you guys have it. UFC 212. It really wasn't something that great. It really wasn't something that's going to blow your hair back. It really wasn't something that you're going to really truly remember. But at the end of the day, we love fights. We can't wait to watch them, and I can't wait to watch the next pay-per-view. So guys, like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.